Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us once again on the State of Freedom.
The State of Freedom is a listener-supported podcast. We're committed to pursuing the truth about policymaking, decisions, and situations in Louisiana and at the national level that stand to impact our freedoms.
Please become a monthly supporter of the State of Freedom at freedomstate.us as we continue to expand the voice of liberty across Louisiana and beyond.
Meet the world's first living, full-spectrum, certified organic CBDA hemp extract. Nessa's hemp oil was extracted from seed to bottle without chemicals, solvents, or heavy metals, and it surpasses world-class standards for purity. This pure and powerful CBDA has been proven to reduce aches and pains, ease mental tension, and promote better sleep. To get yours today, visit the Shop Our Partners page at freedomstate.us. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the State of Freedom. Happy New Year. I'm Danielle Walker, and I'm joined by my friend and co-host, the Watchdog in Chief of Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, Chris Alexander. And we are back in the saddle. Yeah, good morning. We're back in the saddle after taking a couple weeks off for Christmas and New Year's. And, y'all are just going to have to bear with us if we're rusty. We may have forgotten how to do this.
I had to plant breadcrumbs to find my way back to my office. But I got in here, and here we are.
Here we are. Well, we are coming to you all live on Voice of the People USA TV and radio network on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook. And as always, you can catch us later on our audio-only podcast platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcast. Well, today, of all days, is the 5-year anniversary of a day that will live in infamy in the history books of our nation. And Chris, you and I are both praying for the J6ers who suffered persecution and wrongful prosecution at the hands of a weaponized and rogue government. May the enemy have to repay all that was stolen to them sevenfold, and may justice be done in every situation. May the institutions that took so much from them either be fully dismantled or fully restored so that we can trust that the law and the laws of our country are being faithfully enforced. I know we're going to be getting into that today with our friend, Tom Renz. Let me bring Tom forward. Morning, Tom. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
Good. It's great to have you back with us. I wanted to also give you a little bit of a proper introduction. But you, Tom, are a warrior. You're a relentless voice for truth, justice, and sovereignty. And you are an attorney, a best-selling author, and host of the Tom Renz Show. Today, we will be talking, as I just said, about J6 accountability. We'll be talking uncovering of fraud in Minnesota, Ohio, and beyond, and the Maduro arrest, because how can we not talk about those things? It's going to be a spicy start to the year. It has been a spicy start to the year.
Indeed. Yeah, it's crazy. It's a crazy way to start the year. But hey, well, if we're starting out with justice, that's a good step.
Indeed.
Yep. And let me start out with the scripture of the day, so we're on good footing. Today's scripture is 1 Corinthians chapter 3, and it's verses 18 through 23. It says, "So why fool yourself and live under an illusion? Make no mistake about it. If anyone thinks he's wise by the world's standards, he will be made wiser by being a fool for God. For what the world says is wisdom is actually foolishness in God's eyes. As it is written, the cleverness of the know-it-alls becomes the trap that ensnares them. And again, the Lord sees right through the clever reasoning of the wise and knows that it's all a sham. So don't be proud of your allegiance to any human leader, for actually you already have everything. It has all been given to you for your benefit, whether it is Paul or Apollos, Peter the rock, or whether it's the world or life or death, whether it's the present or the future, everything belongs to you. And now you are joined to the Messiah who is joined to God." And that scripture is just a great reminder for us, I think, in the midst of the narrative wars that we're living in, the midst of uncertainty, that the best way to position ourselves during this time is in humility and in seeking the Lord. The one who can help us see through the fog and determine who to trust and what to believe is the Holy Spirit, who leads us in all truth. And yeah, there's plenty to be upset and angry about right now. So much is being exposed. But anyone who positions themselves as an expert in all of it is a fool. And as you listen to different people reporting on what's going on in the world, I just want to encourage people, ask the Holy Spirit to sharpen your discernment. Close your eyes and pay attention to how your body responds to what they're saying, because truth resonates. And I think it's a good exercise to ask Holy Spirit, is this person just trying to elicit an emotional response from me? Or are they telling the truth? And when we hear multiple news outlets reporting the same thing the same way immediately after something happens, we need to ask ourselves, why do they want me to believe that? Ask Holy Spirit, why do they want me to believe that narrative that they're telling us? Now, nobody's going to get it right 100% of the time. So our job is to seek the Lord, ask for discernment, and do our own research. And here we're trying to do that ourselves and trying to bring you the truth in the best way we know how.
Yeah, and we have to continue to do just that, Danielle, to bring the truth in love, which is what we're doing, which what Tom Renz continues to do. And as you were reading the scripture, it always is impressed upon me that the Christian and the patriot are often scorned and reviled until ultimately the cause of truth succeeds, which it will succeed. But we can expect to be rejected by the powers that be, who want to keep things exactly the way they are and who do not want the light of truth to be shown on their corruption and on their misdeeds. So in that light, I want to welcome you to the show, Tom. Few have done more to expose evil and corruption in our government and elsewhere than you have. So welcome to the state of freedom again, sir.
Oh, well, thank you. What you guys were saying was so profoundly important for the moment that we're in. So first of all, and there were a couple things I was taking mental notes as you were speaking, and Danielle talked about humble yourself. Nobody's an expert in everything. Well, you had me on because I know a few things, but I want to stress to everybody, nobody knows everything, right? So what we're doing right now, and one of the things that I want to urge everybody to understand, is there is a push right now to divide us, but not the division is something that you have to understand a little bit greater context, right? So right now we have people saying, well, we can't be divided on the Republican side, but they're using the same pretense that the left uses, right? You have to shut up and tote the line. Well, wait a second. We have to be divided on the Republican side right now because there are a lot of Republicans that are sellouts, that are leftists, that are rhinos, that are selling us down the river. Now, none of us knows the whole picture, right? So what happens is we've got a couple people in positions of power right now, and I want you guys to be aware because I have info on this. One of the things that's going to be coming here very soon and is in the process of rolling out now is you're going to see a very big push on the GOP side to force everybody into line, right? So I've been calling out Bondi for her lack of action. I've been calling out Susie Wiles for her questionable connections. I've been talking about, the things that we need to get done. And I've been also very consistent about my support for Donald Trump. I do like what happened in Venezuela. We'll get to that, I'm sure. But here's the thing. If you look at what I've done, I've just followed the evidence and I've followed truth. And that discernment that you talked about is so key. And I want you guys to understand, and I'm telling everybody and I'm imploring you to understand, there are bad people who have infiltrated our side. We have to stop them because we can't do good from a spot of evil. Their job is to undermine and to destroy the conservative, the patriot, the freedom side of things. And so they're going to now try and do what the left does. They're going to tell us that we have to fall in line and you can't question anybody, right? Listen, Lindsey Graham is a Republican. I shouldn't question him. For God's sakes, the guy's a neocon nutbag. But, guess what? He's still at the White House.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we're attacking a guy like Tom Massey, who, listen, is he perfect? No, but he does a lot of good. Is he better than Lindsey Graham? Well, God, I would hope so. So The thing is does that make Lindsey Graham the worst ever? Well, maybe not. But does it make Thomas Massey, a traitor? No. No, it just means that there's certain disagreements. We have to talk about the issues. We have to follow the evidence. We have to use our discernment. We have to understand that right now there are people in positions of massive power who are trying to force us to fall, in line. And we can't. If you support MAGA, if you support the mission that Donald Trump started, you have to recognize that protecting child rapists, Epstein list, is not MAGA. We're not making America great by protecting elite child rapists. You have to understand that not having any charges brought today is both a symbolic and a legal failure, right? And it's a problem. It's a problem, right? We all saw what they did to our J6s. Accountability needs to be there. Now, does that mean that you're not supporting Donald Trump? I would say no, it's the opposite. It's because you support Donald Trump, because you support MAGA, you understand that sometimes things aren't getting done and you have to call it out. The left is sheep. The left, you fall in line, you follow the leader. We're not that way. And the discernment that you were talking about, the reality that none of us know the whole picture. And so all we can do is follow the evidence and take it where it goes with a truthful and honest approach, and then be willing to have the courage to say, listen, the evidence points to this being bad. We're going to call it out.
Yeah.
That's the only thing we can do.
Tom, to what extent is President Trump and his agenda being undermined by quislings in Republican ranks? And to what extent is President Trump perhaps changing his perspective on some of these issues? I continue to resist the urge to conclude that President Trump himself has had any significant change of heart on these monumental issues we're facing, but he's being frustrated by members of his own cabinet and of his own administration, and perhaps even information that he really needs to know is not getting to him. How do we make that divide between President Trump's personal knowledge or personal predilections and the lack of his support staff to implement his agenda?
Well, the first thing we got to do is we have to recognize that we can't know for sure where the president is and where the president would be if he had full access to honest information, because he doesn't, right? So the two best examples I can give you are both related to Ukraine. If you recall, Ukraine in one instance tried to assassinate Putin. And when the reporters asked Trump about it, Trump said, well, I hadn't even heard about it. So the president of the United States didn't know about an event that could cause World War III. Well, where was his staff on that, right? And in the second event, the Ukraine actually attacked Russia's nuclear fleet, which was a mind-blowingly provocative thing, a very, very legitimate provocation for World War III and nuclear war. Again, when the reporters asked Trump about it, he said, well, I don't know, I hadn't heard anything. Twice on World War III level things, the president didn't hear, right? Access to the president is very tightly controlled. And so what does Donald Trump believe? Well, it's hard to say how much of what's going on right now is because Donald Trump is aware and how much of it is because he's unaware. So I don't really know, and I'm not going to even venture a guess on that. I believe in Trump's heart. I believe he's trying to make America great again, and I think he's the guy that we all thought he was. But listen, if you only hear one side of a story, you're going to make decisions based on the story you're getting. So that's a big issue.
Yeah.
As far as how much is he being undermined, I don't know. Here's the deal: is digital ID is universal digital ID, just like they have in Europe. Does that sound MAGA to you? Because to me, it doesn't.
No.
We have it. The real ID, the way it was implemented, some of the stuff. If you have a real ID, you now have a permanent digital ID. The CBDCs, right? Nobody wants CBDCs. Nobody. So they passed the Genius Act and the laws related to that, except for one thing. Those laws allow for a public-private partnership to implement CBDCs. It's still there. It's
Yeah.
just done in a different way. Does that sound mega to us? No, it doesn't. Now, of course, we do have to move, the digital currencies come. There's nothing anybody can do about that. But do we want it done in a way where it's centralized, where the government can track and trace everything you do? And the answer is profoundly no.
Right.
But that's what we have.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we have. So I don't, do we think that that's Trump's agenda? Well, I don't think that's Trump's agenda.
Is it, Tom, is it Trump's agenda that the DOJ under Joe Biden desecrated the rule of law, perpetrated gross miscarriages of justice and due process violation against countless J6 defendants who lost years of liberty? Is it the MAGA agenda that the people responsible for that would not be under criminal indictment right now? Is that the MAGA agenda? And so when I asked you that first question, I just want to specify it just for now to that issue. I have a hard time believing that President Trump would not like to see those perpetrators in cuffs, if for no other reason than he himself was a victim of it.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% convinced that Trump wants to see them in jail. I do think that if there's one area, because everybody talks about the 5D chess, if there's one area that I think there's some 5D chess going on, it's the election stuff. I do think that Trump's trying to get to the bottom of that. I think that was a huge part of Venezuela. I do think Trump wants justice for the J6ers. Now, here's the problem. Trump does, but does his DOJ? And that's the part I don't know. Now, very, very famously, what's her name? Harmeet Dillon was out there saying, oh, RICO cases, the statute of limitation can be expanded beyond 5 years. And she's right. She's right. Here's the thing, though. That was a deflection, just like everything else. I mean, Harmeet, I like Harmeet, but her entire job is apparently to try and deflect and defend Pam Bondi's incompetence. Listen, Pam Bondi didn't do her job as AG in Florida when she didn't do anything with Jeffrey Epstein. She's had all sorts of questionable things that she's done, including the fact that her former client, Pfizer, the day that literally the first full day of work, Pfizer had a bunch of OFAC investigations that were going on from Biden of all people. Her first day of work, those OFAC investigations all disappeared. So I don't trust Pam Bondi. She's done nothing. She threw the Diddy case. She threw the Comey case, and those weren't accidental. She threw those cases. Whether or not it's because there's bad guys in DOJ, I don't care. Ultimately, that was unforgivable to me. What she did with Epstein is unforgivable to me. So I'm not, Harmeet Dillon can say what she wants about this. The reality is, though, that while a number of the crimes that were committed on J6 the statute will toll for it. I mean, so they're going to be able to bring RICO charges. They're going to be able to do a lot of things on that. But there's a ton of charges that may not qualify for tolling, may not be able to go by that. And those are gone, right? Those are gone. And we don't know which charges would be eligible to continue on. We don't know which ones won't. We don't know who. We don't know what. And the thing is why wasn't this a top priority?
Yeah.
Why wasn't J6 a top priority? I don't for a second believe that Trump didn't want accountability on this. But, you got Tina Peters rotting in jail. There's no accountability for anyone related to anything on J6 so far. And instead, what we're doing is we're hoping that we're going to get a ruling that allows the statute of limitations to toll from a judge, when the judges are what? I mean, they're honest. I mean, we're having all sorts of troubles with these leftist judges who are doing these rulings that just are horrific.
Yeah.
And yet we're going to count on our ability to claim that, this is a large RICO case and that every single defendant we want should be a part of the ongoing conspiracy theory. I mean, why wouldn't you just
cede
do
that territory, Tom? Why cede that territory
And
unnecessarily?
And that's
Yeah.
something, Tom, that Chris and I were just talking about before we came on, which is you can have all the faith in the world in Trump and his administration that you want to, and good for you. But that doesn't negate our responsibility to be hammering on the door, making sure they do it.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and ultimately, listen, didn't we learn from COVID and from J6 and from the election? The price of freedom is eternal vigilance. As soon as you trust the government,
That's
as
right.
soon as you trust the government, you lose your freedom. I don't care if it's Donald Trump or anyone other than until Jesus Christ is in charge, which I mean he's in charge now, but until he's sitting in the White House or something, yeah, that's it. I don't. There's not a man on this planet that I'm going to trust to do this without asking questions. And if you are willing to just quit asking questions, then you're left a sheep. I'm sorry, and I'm sorry to say this to these mega influencers who are out there. Well, you're blackpilling. I'm not blackpilling. I'm doing what you should have been doing before COVID. I'm doing what I should have been doing before COVID. What's happening right now is you cowards are selling out because you don't want to question, because you don't want to lose access, you don't want to lose the money, you don't want to lose this, you don't want to lose that, and that's just cowardice. It's
Yeah.
cowardice, and it's selling out, and it's no better than the left.
Yeah. And Tom, do they not understand? I want to get your perspective on this. Do these people not understand the precedent that has been set here, not only on J6, but on other gross abuses of power that we witnessed under Joe Biden? Do they not understand the legal, the constitutional, the historical precedent that will be set going forward if this is not fully redressed, if there's not real accountability? Obviously, I believe that they should be punished. I believe that they have to be punished for what they did. And that's one thing, but the broader concern is that if they're not punished, if there's not real accountability, the historic precedent going forward, this can happen again and again and again in the future. Those who fail to learn the lessons of history are doomed to repeat them. I don't understand why everybody is not concerned about this for that reason alone. Ultimately, this, as Robert Jackson said, by failing to address this fully and properly, we are creating a poison chalice that ultimately will lift to our own lips. That's why we have to desecrate this precedent. Is that a real concern of yours?
1,000%. I mean, show me one person who's been held accountable for COVID. COVID was, we now know, it's not even disputable. It was created in a lab with US government funding, killed how many people? How many people? We now know that the mRNA vaccines killed how many people? We not only aren't holding them accountable, we're inviting Bill Gates and Anthony Bourla to the White House.
Yeah.
I mean, you telling me they aren't going to do this again? 15 to 30 trillion dollars with a T changed hands during COVID. 15 to 30 trillion. The people that made that 15 to 30 trillion, do you think they won't do this again? There has been no accountability, nothing. The people that stole 2020, no accountability. Now, I do think that Trump's moving towards accountability on some of that. Although I don't know if it's going to work because he has to have a DOJ that's capable and willing to actually put someone in jail. I mean, listen, this DOJ, I know we're going to get into fraud in Minnesota. I mean, Tim Walz was literally named in a letter by the shooter,
Right.
of Melissa Hortman, as the guy that told him to do it. Now, it's not like this guy didn't know Tim. He was a political appointee of Tim. So can you imagine if I had a work associate that went out and shot someone and wrote a letter and said, Renz told me to do it? Can you imagine that no one would even ask me the question, hey, Renz, did you tell him? But no
It's
one's even asked Tim
astounding.
Walz. It's incredible. It's incredible. But, you know, our DOJ is literally unwilling to do anything real to this point. And, you know, this Maduro thing, right? So Maduro, he's sitting in jail in New York at SDNY, the most corrupt, awful, I mean, that's the Epstein DOJ. That's where they threw the Diddy case. I mean, they literally threw that case. That was the most horrific case I've ever seen. I mean, that guy was on camera clocking that girl in the head and dragging her to a
Yeah.
room. I mean, the guy's a monster at best. Yet, what do we get out of this? Across the board, this DOJ has done nothing but fail and fail and fail. And I know that Maduro was originally, the charges were brought in SDNY, but guess what? He's just been arrested. We could bring new charges in a new place. There's no reason that we have to just use the old indictment. There's no reason we have to stick to what didn't work, whatever it is. And I mean, there's a ton of different things we could do with this.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I am not. There's some good people at Justice, but at the end of the day, Justice is not getting it done. I don't see anything. I see nothing at the head of the state. Now they're doing a great job on low-level nobodies. I mean, man, they are taking the thugs off the street right and left, and good for them. But to me, that's their job, right? That's what they ought to be doing anyways. What I'm looking for is we fought for Donald Trump because we wanted accountability at the top. We wanted the swamp drained. What we're not getting is any swamp draining at all.
Is it, Tom, is that because the people who are the potential targets, the people who have done all of these things wrong are simply too well placed and too powerful?
I don't believe that that's a thing. I think that's cowardice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be real honest.
No, I'm
with
not.
you.
I'm not justifying it. I'm just trying to figure out a reason why they're not moving forward on these things.
Chris, I am a nobody from a little town in Ohio. I had 10,000 people in my town. I had a law practice I opened 6 months before COVID started. I had no clue what I was doing and led a movement against the most powerful people on the planet. The idea that you can't take someone out because they're too big and too powerful is cowardice. What that really means is you don't have the balls to do your job. And I'm sorry, you're talking, just life experience, just my personality, who I am. I got to tell you something. This will never happen. But if I had special prosecutor powers or I was AG, I can assure you there wouldn't be a single one of these suckers that wasn't shaking in their boots, because we would be going after them. And whether we failed or succeeded, everybody on the planet would know exactly what's happening. And this whole thing would come down, because all we need is for the courage for our Justice Department to start exposing the truth of what's happening instead of covering it up. Instead of covering up for Epstein, put it all out there, and put it out there for real with all the key redactions and key places we're seeing, right? We put it all out there. Let's see who was really behind that. Let's see who was really behind, the guy that tried to shoot Trump. I mean, you're going to tell you, oh, I'm sorry, the lone wolf shooter who just, happened to be in a BlackRock commercial and happened to, be, meeting with people outside the FBI building. And I mean, over and over again, what we're seeing is lie to cover, because they don't have the courage, the political will, or maybe they're just corrupt. I don't know which one it is. Either they lack courage, they lack conviction, they lack political will, or they're just corrupt. I don't care which one it is. None of them are acceptable.
What do you think about the pipe bomber thing? Because to me, that was a very bizarre set of stories being told, and none of them add up.
Oh yeah. So we have another lone wolf, killer, attempted killer, who's autistic, high functioning, autistic, and who everybody that knows him says no, and who apparently, I don't the gait analysis thing, I'm not an expert in that, but I mean, it does not even close. Nothing about that adds up. But this DOJ hasn't stopped lying, and the problem is we can prove that they lied on Epstein because you can see it. I mean, we got Patel and we got everybody out there testifying, oh, no, there's no Epstein files. It's a hoax, until they have to release the files. Now it's pretty clearly not a hoax, right? So we know that they're liars. And when do you trust a liar? You don't. I'm sorry, you just don't. Yeah. So at this point,
but Tom, let me interrupt for just a second there. And who could have guessed? Another issue that intrigues me is, who would have ever forecast that Kash Patel would have assumed this public persona once he became the FBI director, based on everything that he was saying leading up to it? It's like we're dealing with an entirely different person.
Yeah, Well, I mean, I've met Cash. I mean, I had such high hopes for him, and I'm sorry, but I mean, the Epstein thing is so unforgivable to me.
Are all the
And
files on that out now, Tom? There's all the
no,
files are
no,
still not out on Epstein?
no, and I don't, they're not. We actually, General Flynn reported last week with Alex Jones, and this is really profoundly important, that apparently Bondi and Wiles and some of the people in the White House, not Trump, I know it's not even clear that Trump knows about this, but they're putting together social media teams and influencers to go out there and to attack anybody that's blackpilling, that's telling the truth and questioning them because they want us to be like leftists who just tote the line. Interestingly enough, and I'm not making an accusation here, but interestingly enough, that coincides perfectly with the time that Dan Bongino is quitting the FBI and then goes out and makes a huge statement. We're going to go after these black pillars and we're going to get them. We're going to shut them down. I was on the inside. Well, you were on the inside, Dan, and you didn't do a damn thing. Not one single head of the snake went anywhere. Not one. Not one. I mean, the idea that they're going to go after black pillars, what that really is and what we really have to do is we have to get out there and we got to make sure that everybody understands going after black pillars is the rhino part of this regime trying to get us to shut up and fall in line like the leftists. They want obedience. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but we're patriots. We don't do obedience. We support Donald Trump and MAGA. But if his administration is failing to go after MAGA in a proper way, we're going to call them out because we're not leftists. We're not sheep.
Yeah, and what they're calling black pillars is the same thing as the J6er, right? It's the people who are calling a spade a spade. It's not the people who are going to sit there and rubber stamp fraud in the face of the American people.
Yeah, well, and that's the problem is they are trying to convince us, and that black pill is, mark my words, black pilling will be the new thing. Oh, you're a black pillar.
It's the new misinformation, disinformation lingo, huh?
Yep, I think that's where they're going with it. I think that you're going to see, and I'll be interested. I want to see whether Dan Bongino, when he comes back and does his thing, whether he actually, tells the truth or whether he just totes the company line. It'll be interesting because we know for a fact that they've been scheming and coordinating, and I know for a fact that they've been bringing in some minor influencers and some major influencers into White House, FBI to meet with these people to try and push this agenda.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'm not going to be intimidated by a bunch of sellout cowards. And if you do that, we just have to know, hey, listen, you're either on MAGA or you're not. And there are certain things that are not disputable. Raping children and accountability for it is never going to be MAGA. I don't care if it's Donald Trump or anybody else. That's not going to make America great again.
Yeah.
COVID, we need accountability. It's just not there has to be accountability. And these mRNA jabs are not, they're not making America great. They're making America sick or dead. And they've been doing that on a global scale. So I'm sorry, I don't care who likes it. It's not good. I don't care.
Yeah.
CBDCs, not MAGA. Digital ID, not MAGA. The fact that we're, still doing all these different things that are destroying small business and we're not doing anything to help small business, but we're doing everything to help big business, not MAGA. And I'll tell you another one that's really not MAGA. Do you guys know, have you guys ever thought about the fact that the American government now owns massive stakes in a bunch of private companies like Intel?
Yeah.
That's we're nationalizing businesses. That's socialism. That is not MAGA.
Yeah. Tom, you talk about cowering, and I believe that there's an epidemic of collective cowardice. I agree with you, no question. But in order to have a coward, there has to be something that they are cowering before. What are they cowering before? Who is or what is ultimately controlling this?
Well, that's the real question. And the answer is very, very, very complex based on so I'm an evidence guy. I follow the evidence. And the answer varies, right? So at the bottom of the food chain, you can see, that there's certain accountabilities, right? You can see that in the DOJ, there's people who are accountable to Pam Bondi, and their job is to lie, to cover up, to obfuscate, to try and make her look good. You can see if you go up there, up the food chain a little farther, that Wiles is controlling a ton of this, what's happening in this administration. She made sure certain appointees got there. So, for example, the COVID jabs are still on the market. Why? Why would that be? I mean, well, why isn't Marty McCarty pulled it off? Just this weekend, I put out I quoted, there's a tweet, Mary Tyler Bowden found Robert Malone talking about the fact that McCarty is apparently the guy who's stopping the mRNA from getting pulled from the shelves. Well, if that's true, and I actually asked for confirmation on that. If that's true, I just said, listen, then we need to unite against him, because if you're for mRNA, you're not Maha, and you need to go. So, it depends on where you go. But Wiles, I mean, she worked at Mercury LLC as a managing partner, and she worked at Ballard Associates, where she worked with Pam Bondi, who was representing Pfizer. I mean, she's got a ton of ties to pharma. To me, that's the most sensible thing. Now, we also know that Trump himself does like, and I'm sorry, but the president and I disagree on COVID and mRNA. And, we know that that's from him. So, we know he's there on that. Now, has he been properly exposed to the real experts on this? No. But at the end of the day, we do have to put that blame where it belongs. So, I mean, again, another layer. Who's to blame? But then you got to remember, above Wiles, above all these people, there's more. There's more layers, right? There's always someone pulling the string, because you can't bribe a politician without someone to bribe them, right? So these people who are making a ton of money and who are controlled and who are being pushed to do these things, there's always someone controlling them. And, we start looking at Arabella and the Soros network. We start looking at the Rothschilds and, the Gates, the Borlas, some of these, the BlackRocks, the World Economic Forums, and some of these. And you can see, that you just keep going up, and there's always just another rung on the ladder or the hierarchy of corruption. So.
Yeah, and ultimately, I think that it comes ultimately at the heart of it, Tom, is an absolute irreconcilable distinction between the constitutional vision that our founding fathers promulgated and sacrificed and died for, and the globalist vision of the Rothschilds and many other very powerful world figures. This at heart is a philosophical distinction. And I think that their ultimate goal truly is to destroy the United States Constitution. That ultimately is what it comes down to. And I've been trying to figure out who in the Trump administration actually shares that view and who is simply too afraid to stand up against it. So maybe we'll never really know the answer to that question. Certainly does not in any way mitigate our obligation to fight against it.
Well, I think it's very important to understand, and there's a distinction that's worth noting. So I don't think, even the sellouts, even the people who I think have sold out in this administration, I don't think anybody's going to them and saying, hey, we're going to destroy the American Constitution. I'll give you $1 million if you help me.
Yeah.
I think
well, they're not saying that, sure.
What's instead happening is you have people in power who are saying, we can save the world by doing this way. They're like, well, but the people don't want it. Yeah, but let me tell you why it'll work. The people just don't know, and we know better. And here's our experts, and here's our this, and here's our that, right? And so there's a lot of selling positions that occurs in some of these rooms. I've been in some of the rooms where you see these experts and these uber powerful people, that are telling everybody, and they're making very convincing arguments as to why we have to do this, and they're compelling and they're powerful arguments, and we have to do this to save humanity and to do this and do that. And that it's fine and dandy, but at the end of the day, it always comes back, and the thing that you've got to understand is that it always comes back to a certain group of people benefit from it and everybody else fails. And the only way to really distinguish between what's actually good and what's not is when you look at it and say, well, is this going to benefit we the people? Or is this just going to benefit a handful of rich, noblest, elitist? Because that's what really have, right? Right now, what we have is we have a global nobility class that's trying to seize control of the world. and ensure that they have the same thing that every nobility class has ever wanted throughout history: permanent power, permanent status, and the ability to just make sure that everything, they're just building their empire. It's human history just on repeat,
Yeah.
but with new
Yeah.
technology.
And they view
And
the
Tom,
United States Constitution, Tom, excuse me, Danielle, but they view the United States Constitution as the biggest impediment, the biggest obstacle to achieving those objectives, I think.
100%.
and I think the plumb line for us has to be the Constitution and the Word of God, because if it's not, then you can be swayed by the experts, right? But if
Yeah.
you can listen to the experts, you can sit in the room with these, people who set themselves up to be the people who know everything,
Yeah.
and or the people who are changing the language to make it palatable, right? I was inside of Pfizer during COVID. I can tell you, they changed the language to make it palatable to people.
Sure.
And if you don't have discernment, if you can't say, well, this is the red line. The red line is the Constitution. If you go past that, then we are no longer in agreement. If you can't say that, if you don't have that as your boundary for yourself, then you are susceptible to being swayed by these experts. And so if you're a middle manager and if you don't have that discernment and an understanding of the Constitution in place, it's very easy for you to trip over that. It's very easy to just toe the line. It's also very popular and very rewarded to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Very much so. Yeah. Along those lines, Danielle, my wife Katie, as you know, worked for Pfizer for many years, and she drunk the Kool-Aid for years, the Pfizer
Yeah.
Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
So the pressure to conform, the pressure to rubber stamp their narrative is overwhelming, or can be overwhelming. So it is, discernment, the scripture, and acting on principle at all times is hugely important.
Yeah. Let's get into the fraud too.
Yeah, let's talk about the fraud. Tom, $9 billion in Minnesota, that was supposed to be going to social programs has been squandered, stolen, who knows what. Question is this: what's going to come of this? Number one, and number two, is this, in your view, a failure by and large of state oversight, or do you think that this is part of a broader money laundering, for lack of a better phrase, operation?
It's definitely a broader operation. And we're just going to tell you, look at Ohio, right? So my home state of Ohio, under Republican Rhino Mike DeWine, is the second largest Somali population in the country, and just as many problems. Now, it's interesting. Do I think there'll be some accountability? Yeah, some mid-level. Do I think Tim Walz will go to jail? Maybe. Probably not. I mean, he's not all that relevant in the scheme of things. So, it just depends on the appetite to, how bad is Bondi is the real question, right? Because at the end of the day, I mean, Tim Walz should already be being investigated for murder.
Yeah.
Or, for conspiracy to commit murder, but nobody's bothering with that. Where's our FBI on that? So I don't know if they'll go after that. Now you'll see a whole bunch of Somalis get deported and a whole bunch of mid-level nobodies, and they'll make a huge show of it in the press. And, oh, look at what we're doing. Look at where we're getting them, right? But as far as the overarching operation, that I don't know about, because we should be hearing about Ohio, but we're not, because we have this whole uniparty nonsense thing going on. And the GOP doesn't want to expose the fact that they're no different. It's kind of like election fraud. The dirty secret of election fraud is that the GOP benefits from it.
Yeah.
I mean, they use it too to control their primaries, to control, what rhinos are going where. I mean, not all GOP. I mean, there's a lot of good Republicans out there, but the rhino wing of the GOP, the Democrat wing of the GOP, absolutely there's voter fraud. They absolutely benefit from it. Why do you think Mitch McConnell defends it so much? But I think that what you're going to see here is what we've really got to watch is whether or not anybody actually does anything in Ohio. Because right now, DOJ, oh, we can't wait to go to Minnesota, right? Now, it was interesting. We're all hands on deck in Minnesota. Now, a few days later, I and a bunch of other people started dropping stuff about Ohio, and it was getting picked up and it was running. All of a sudden, we quit hearing as much about Minnesota, right? Why is that? Well, because the DOJ is nothing if not politicized right now. I mean, one thing that we can say for sure is the DOJ is 100% politicized. Is that good? Well, maybe, because we know Trump wants to go after certain people, so maybe it'll be good on that front. But we're not going to see it do what it ought to be doing. We see that already, because the Department of Justice is supposed to be about justice, and they're not. They're not at all. Justice would mean that Mike DeWine would be being investigated just as much as Tim Walz, because it's just as bad. It's the same crime, the same place. But because Mike DeWine is now listen, Mike DeWine has ties to the Clinton Foundation. In Ohio, there's all sorts of rumors. Now, they're not confirmed, they're rumors. But there's all sorts of rumors about DeWine's ties with Les Wexner and the Clintons, and that they've been trafficking children from Haiti through an orphanage in Cleveland. I mean, it's rumors. Can we prove it? No. But the rumors have continued on for a decade. I mean, forever, right? But no one even looks into it. And it's very easy to confirm that DeWine pals around with all sorts of crazy people, and he's got all sorts of ties to. I mean, DeWine is one of the most corrupt people on the planet, but he's got an R by his name.
Yeah.
He was the first Republican to sell out on COVID. He is a big pharma shill from top to bottom, but he's got an R by his name.
Yeah,
so
and Tom, the reason
anything.
why I believe, not to interrupt you, that Trump is being sabotaged within his own administration, is that Trump has much more than a theoretical appreciation for the DeWine type of Republicans. DeWine is the very type of Republican that did everything within their power to undermine and destroy President Trump when he was running for office the first time, and many even the second time. Trump is bound to know that these people are not his friends. And so this has to be something that's going on within the administration. And President Trump, as powerful as he is, and I think as good a man as he is, he can't do it all. He's not a king. You know, we live in a constitutional republic. And I would bet that he is enormously frustrated on a number of issues that he would like the DOJ. I don't know if I remember this correctly or not, but I thought I read recently that President Trump publicly chided Bondi or the DOJ for not moving forward on. Is that accurate, Tom?
Yeah, I saw he posted it on True Social. Yeah, he definitely did. But Chris, let me challenge you, right? Now, this is completely, wildly black pill horrible for me to say. I should never, ever say this, right? But let's pretend for a second that we're all honest and just trying to look at the actual evidence and facts. Let's pretend that we're free thinking and that we're actually conservatives who believe in principle over party, which actually the three of us are. But let's have this conversation, right? I agree with you, everything you said, and I want to believe everything you just said. I want to believe that that's the case. But why then is Donald Trump friends with Lindsey Graham? Lindsey Graham did everything that he could to undermine and destroy Trump. He voted to impeach him. He ripped him on J6. He was against him from the beginning. Why does Trump go golfing with Lindsey Graham? Why is it that he does those things? I don't know, and I don't understand some of it, right? Some of this doesn't make sense. Some of it just seems off or wrong, or like there's just something off about it. I don't know the answer to some of these, but what I do know is that at the end of the day, Trump has a lot of snakes around him and a lot of people who aren't MAGA. And yeah, I think Donald Trump is a good man who wants to make America great. But I think that we, the people, have a duty to make sure he hears from us and how we see that and what that means. Because those of us that fought for him, the MAGA base, we want God, family, country. We want our Constitution, and we want to move closer to what our founding fathers created rather than farther away. We keep moving farther away, and we're being told, well, it's a new world, new technology, new this, new that. Listen, there's nothing happening in this new world. The AI, everything else, there's none of that couldn't be created to promote freedom and individual liberties. All of that could be focused that way, but it's not being done that way.
It's the abuse. It's the abuse of it. What is your gut feeling now about the pulse of the MAGA base generally,
I think
Tom?
we're going to get slaughtered in the 2026 midterms unless. Now, I believe this is the one spot that I believe that there's some 5D chess going. I do believe that Trump is going to launch some major, major things this year. So this year, 2026, here's my predictions. The economy is going to explode. Remember, I'm a Trump supporter. So I can be for him, but that doesn't mean that I worship him. So I can also be against the stupid things he does, right? So I can talk both sides. Donald Trump has done an incredible job with his tariffs, his trade deals, stuff like that. I think the economy is going to explode in 2026. The Biden economy was horrific. And if you remember in 2024, I want to defend Donald Trump on this. There was, inflation and the numbers, you're right, they're still bad. And yes, Congress could have did things to fix it. So the Congress is terrible. But they passed Budget X, right? Remember right before Christmas in 2024 when they passed Biden's budget that tied Trump's hands for the entirety of 2025?
Yeah.
The Congress, the GOP, the sellouts made sure that Trump looked bad in 2025. 2026, we'll start seeing Trump stuff actually take place, and we'll see the economy start to explode. We're also going to see 100%, there will be some big, big things happening from the Justice Department. There has to be, because Trump will fire them if there's not. Now, here's the problem. Will they be real? Now, they're going to make a big show of a bunch of things, and they're going to talk about how we're breaking down this and doing that. But the question is going to be, what is it that they're going after, and is it going to actually make a difference? Now, my biggest worry for 2026 is that DOJ, is that they basically hornswoggle the American public. Now, the GOP is a disaster. The GOP is an absolute disaster. Mitch McConnell, Collins, Lindsey Graham, pick your crew. These guys are absolute sellout crooks. We need them replaced. We need them gone. What's going to happen midterms? Well, right now, the way it stands, we would get shellacked in midterms, second to none. If Trump does enough magic, enough PR, enough this, enough that, then they can kind of revitalize his mandate and maybe he can really get some things done. The question is, can he do that? And I don't believe he can do that unless he does some major, major things that are of real substance. I think if he starts draining the swamp for real, if you see people going to jail, like we just found out that Lindsey Graham, there's an accusation that Lindsey Graham was getting money put off of the Ukraine aid, that he's getting, basically they're using their aid to buy him off.
Yeah,
kickbacks. We're going to investigate that?
Tom, just to clarify your point, are you saying that if all things being equal today, if the midterms were held, we would have a shellacking? Or are you saying that if we have fair elections, we would have a shellacking?
I think even if we had fair elections, we'd lose the midterms unless we had those fair elections and a whole bunch of people went to jail. The only thing I think that can save us in the midterms is if he can convince enough people to be excited because he's actually doing things to drain the swamp, that he can rebuild trust with his base. Right now, he doesn't have trust with his base. His base is, Maha's gone. Maha's done. Right now, they just released that the vaccine schedule got changed. That's great. But at the end of the day, 20% of Americans gave up everything to avoid those COVID shots. Everything. Yeah. Those people are not going to forget. They're not going to forgive. And until there's accountability, and right now, having dinner with Anthony Bourla and Bill Gates, I'm sorry, they're not going to come out and vote for that. The mega base, the J6ers, the people who are asking, why is Tina Peters still in jail?
Yeah.
Right? The Epstein people. I mean, there's a lot of big issues that he's going to have to really turn some stuff around to get enough of the base out there to win this. And remember, Susie Wiles specifically said she wants to, to make this all about Trump in 2026. Well, that means that Trump has to go out there and back what people like Lindsey Graham are doing. Well, I'm sorry, but the base isn't going to resonate with him. There's no way for him to do that. If you support Lindsey Graham, I'm sorry, but Mr. President, you're on the wrong side of that one, and I ain't going to support you. So I don't know unless there's major changes. I think we're in trouble.
I think, Tom, I think that I believe that, and I hope that there is something broader at work here. I have a really, really hard time believing that Donald Trump does not know exactly who and what Lindsey Graham actually is. Trump is way too smart not to know what a snake Lindsey Graham is.
Agreed.
There is something to be said for keeping your friends close and your enemies closer. And I will bet you that Donald Trump views Lindsey Graham much more as an enemy than as a friend. And I just never underestimate President Trump's ability to think 4, 5, 6, 8 steps ahead of everybody else. He's demonstrated it in the past. And if he's aware of the fact that his base is very disgruntled now, and I'm sure he is, and he doesn't want to get slaughtered in the midterms, I would bet that you are right. I bet some very big things will be coming out in the first few months of 2026. That's my prediction. And really, to be honest with you, my gut is that nobody wants that more than Donald Trump, because nobody has been more victimized by the things we're talking about here today in many respects than Donald Trump. So I hope you're right.
Which leads me to the point, the most important point. If we get slacked in the midterms, Donald Trump will get impeached, the Democrats will take power, we'll never have fair elections, and everything goes to hell. And what do we do then? Because there is no next Donald Trump. There isn't. I'm sorry. There's this. So what do we do then? Our entire country is hanging in the balance. And here's the problem I have. The evidence to this point has shown that both Pam Bondi and Susie Wiles are at best incompetent and at worst sellouts. If those two undermine him at the right moment, if they fail, if Trump has a big DOJ initiative and Pam Bondi throws the cases, we are screwed because there's not enough time to recover them. So this administration and the future of this country really right now comes down to, do you trust Pam Bondi and Susie Wiles? And I don't think that's an overstatement, because we've seen, listen, as an attorney, when I look, the Comey case, they knew the plain language of the law is crystal clear. Lindsay Halligan may be a great attorney. She's probably brilliant. I don't know much about her. She did not have authority to do that case. This is kind of like relying on RICO to extend the statute of limitations on J6 cases. Can it work? Sure. Will it work? Probably. Do you really want to bet your life on it? Well, why would you if you don't have to?
Yeah.
Right? We're betting an awful lot on two people that have either demonstrated complete incompetence or corruption. I mean, to the way that there is literally no argument on this planet that anyone can make that Pam Bondi did a good job with Epstein files. That binder debacle was so bad. We got a truckload of data. We don't have data. We got this. We got that. Oh, here's the video of Epstein not being murdered, except for the 2 minutes or 3 minutes that were gone.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And now we're going to release those 2 minutes, except for we didn't actually release it all. I mean, the whole thing is just This is just ineptitude on a level that's mind blowing, on to the point where it just looks like corruption. So we're going to bet our nation's future on someone who's already demonstrated complete and total incompetence or corruption, one of the two. And that's why I'm not blackpilling. I don't want to fight with Donald Trump. I don't want to fight with his administration. I want to support them. I want to fight. I've been fighting for him for 5 years. What I want, though, is to not bet the future of my nation on someone who's an idiot or a crook or a liar or something of the sort. But what she is not is a good AG. That we can be sure of.
And Tom, can I bring you back for a second to this idea of the statute of limitations and the RICO case? Is there anything that would prevent them, even if there is an ongoing RICO investigation going on, from picking off a few of these cases just to see some justice done? I mean, I don't think that inhibits a broader investigation in any way, right?
No, what it showed, the fact that nothing's happened indicates that there's no actual work being done on it. If J6 were on the list, right, if that's something that they were doing, they would have started prosecuting. Some of the cases wouldn't have been brought up first. But you got to understand, when we look at J6, and I've looked at it extensively, we put out a video right before the election to try and help Donald Trump, because I support him, about J6 and showing Democrat involvement, showing who was involved. I mean, it's a great video. We got millions of views. It literally has a huge thing, right? If you look at this, you can see there should, if this was a priority, if this is something that they were doing anything on, there would have been prosecutions. In some of these cases, not everybody is a part of the conspiracy that did something wrong, right? There can be people who did things wrong that day, and it was isolated, and it wasn't to be a part of or in furtherance of the conspiracy. And those people are no longer going to be chargeable, right? There's going to be people who did egregious things, should have been charged, and just won't be.
Do you fire
yes.
Tom? Do you fire the first thing you would do if Tom Renz was president for a day? Would that be the first thing that you do? Fire Wiles and Bondi? And if so, who would you, Tom Renz, replace them with?
An outsider. It's a shame Sidney Powell doesn't want the job. It's just too bad, because I would love to see her there. But here's how I would go about interviewing on this. Right? If I'm the president, I'm doing this, and I understand that the most important role in my administration right now is the Attorney General, right? Because the Attorney General is the only, as president, you can't pass law. His executive orders, his treaties, his negotiations, everything Donald Trump has done can be undone day one of the next presidency, right? Everything. So unless you pass legislation, the only other thing the president can do is put bad guys in jail. That's the only thing that you can't undo, a conviction, right?
Well, they could be pardoned, right? Couldn't a subsequent administration pardon them?
Potentially, but I mean, listen, if you put Adam Schiff in jail for mortgage nonsense, he's not going to get back into power. Right? He's
true.
Done. So I mean, there's things. If you prosecute the people that have the Arabella network, I mean, that's going to break the network, right? It's going to take years and tons to put that back together. So it's the one thing that he can do that can have a true long-lasting effect is AG. So what needs to happen is he needs to find someone who is outside, who's not a DC insider, who's not a political insider. And the number one thing I would be looking for is someone who does not care about their political future and cannot, for any amount of money, be bought, period. You need someone with a demonstrated track record who cannot be bought.
The list would be short, Tom. The list would be short.
It would be very short, but there is nothing more important, because remember, the amount of money to buy off that position is endless, right? If you bring down Arabella, think of how many hundreds of billions of dollars Arabella has spent destroying this world. So what, do you think they would hesitate to spend a few billion to stay in place?
Would Matt Gaetz be on your list?
I'd certainly talk to him. I would have loved to have seen Matt Gaetz in there. That's why he got destroyed. I mean, they went after him like no one else because they knew that if he was in there, he would do something. He'd be at the top of the list of people I would talk to. He'd be, certainly amongst that. I'd try and twist Sydney's arm a little bit, see if I could get her. Um, but I would really, really, really be looking for people who can't be bought and who also the other side of this is you've got to have the courage to know that they may threaten your family with death.
Yeah.
They may threaten. I mean, during COVID, it's funny to me when people talk about death threats. I had people show up at my house during COVID. I had death threats aren't some idiot on the internet in my tweets saying, "Hey, you should die, Renz." That's not a death threat. I don't give a damn about that. Death threats are when you get a letter, when you get a letter directly to you talking about your family, right? Death threats are real when they're real. If you don't have the gonads to deal with that stuff, I mean, because it's going to happen. It really is. Now if you're the head of the DOJ, you've got a whole organization there that you should be, able to use to try and ferret that out and make someone accountable when that happens. So it's a little bit different than some private attorney suing a bunch of big pharma crooks. But you got to have some. I'm sorry, some balls of steel. If I'm sorry, I don't know how else to say it, to do that and to do it right and to not be willing to sell out. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for absolutely unable to be bought and just a spine of steel, absolute steel. I'll tell you what I'm not doing. It doesn't have to be the greatest attorney in history. Okay. It's nice if they are, but at this point, they have to be a very good or competent attorney. They need to be very cagey and crafty, but they have to be, the most important things are making sure that they're smart enough to spot corruption and just absolutely immune to it. That's really the key.
Yeah. And Tom, 1 second.
I'm sorry, Daniel.
Sorry, Chris. What do you say to people who point to sealed indictments and say that justice is coming, there's all these thousands of sealed indictments that are going to be opened any minute? Have you seen any evidence of that? And do you think that some of these people have sealed indictments, that people that we're concerned about?
I'm not betting the future of my country on something I can't see.
Yeah.
Okay, this goes back to them trying to convince us to be sheep again. I'm sorry, I'm following the evidence. You've heard that there's sealed indictments? Okay, great. Where did you hear it? What evidence do you have that that's true, and what's in them? I don't give a damn about. This is like the white hats and that are going to come in and ride in and save us all. Show me some evidence. I don't give a damn about some guy that's sitting, some magical mystical keyboard warrior that might be doing something to help us. I want to see something. And it was during COVID we saw this. Oh, you just got to give it time. There's a plan. It's okay. Well, listen. While your plan is percolating, there's people dying. There's kids dying. There's families suffering. Every Tina Peters is rotting in jail right now. Every day that your plan is continuing with these sealed indictments, she's suffering. So I don't really give a damn what you're telling me might happen in the future. I'm going to complain and fight and argue until something happens. And you know what I'm going to do? When and if something does happen, I'm going to say, good thing I did, because otherwise you've got no evidence that nothing would have changed.
That's right.
Yeah. At some point, Tom, and I want to make sure I understood you correctly, and then we can round out here. What is, you said earlier that at some point Donald Trump is going to start firing people, right?
I hope so. I think he doesn't have a choice soon. It's just whether it's too late.
Yeah, but because as you very well said earlier, his own political future will be determined by who controls the House of Representatives, and God knows Donald Trump does not want to go through round two, and so I think that he's bound to be aware of that. But I want to ask you this about Tina. What would you do right now regarding Tina Peters if you were president of the United States right now?
My DOJ would be investigating criminally every single person in and around her case. They would be going after these people. The FBI would be so far up their rears that they wouldn't know which way was forward. And until such time as she was released, I would be investigating. Now, I will give Harmeet Dillon credit on the Bureau of Prisons investigation, but it's not enough, right? That's good. It's not enough, though. These prosecutors, these judges, all of these people need to be being investigated. That case, I mean, it wasn't suspiciously bad. It wasn't just a little bit off. It wasn't like it wasn't a raise the eyebrow type thing. It was egregiously mishandled on a profound level, to the point where I would wonder what sort of criminal activity might be behind it. I think there's in light of her allegations and everything around this and everything that's going on, there's plenty of basis to investigate every single person in and around Colorado. I would have so much heat and so much pressure on everyone in that state that they would be rushing her out of that jail. They would be begging her to go away. And I mean, you can't, the pardon process and everything he did there, kudos to him for doing that. But this is exactly what was going to happen. I mean, it's very clear what was going to happen.
Yeah, and this wouldn't be a political, this wouldn't be a political move, because there is overwhelming evidence of criminal activity on the part of Colorado officials. So this would be a legitimate move on the part of the Trump administration, not purely political, that you think would indirectly result in Tina Peters being freed from jail.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, listen, so it's funny because, Susie Wiles' Vanity Fair hit piece that she did on the administration, and I say it that way because, I mean, she was recorded. Everything she said was recorded. So what are you going to say? They say it was a hit piece on Susie. No, it wasn't a hit piece on Susie. It was a hit piece by Susie. So in her hit piece against administration, she talked about how she tells Trump she's against Trump having and his retribution to her. It's not retribution. It's justice. These people committed crimes. They belong in jail. But this is the clever thing that these people do, right? That Trump, you can't do that. It's retribution. No, it's not. It's justice.
Yeah.
Retribution is revenge. Justice is justice. It's either there or it's not, right? Now, in this case, listen, are there crimes that are occurring in the state of Colorado? Looks like it on a pretty profound level.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys are going to be that way, let's investigate. Let's see what's happening in Colorado. Let's look into what's happening. I mean, how you remember the apartment buildings in Denver and all the things that they were showing there in the media not too long ago?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, you don't think there's any crime related to that? You don't think any of that could trace back to the governor? You don't think it? Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of hot points and leverage points that they can do if these guys want to play that corrupt game. You play the game back. You just if they're gonna street fight, then we street fight back.
Yeah, and I think there's a very thick thread that runs from Venezuela, from Maduro to the governor of Colorado, because Trump said a few weeks ago that the governor of Colorado, Jared Polis, was controlled by Cartel del Sol, and Cartel del Sol is allegedly run by Maduro himself.
Yeah.
So the fact that we had this Tina pardon, the intransigence by the governor, and then we see Maduro getting picked up live, to me says we should be seeing some things moving in Colorado pretty soon.
I'm hoping so. And I this goes back to what I said. I do think that we'll see some movement on some of the election stuff. I think Trump has no choice on that. And my big concern, though, is when it comes down to it, when it comes down to the key cases and the key indictments, will Bondi perform or will she undermine? And that's the one I don't know. And that's my concern. We're going to bet our country on her performing, when to this point there's been no evidence that she can or will.
And we're clearly running out of time. There's no question about that. We are running out of time. We didn't really get a chance to get too much today, Tom, into Maduro, but I have my own concerns about it. Which would be allayed entirely if, in fact, one of the underlying motives, if not the main motive for this, was to uncover all of the evidence of international election fraud.
Yeah.
And the heart of the beast always seems to have been in Venezuela. That to me gives the United States a real vested interest in doing what we just did. Beyond that, even though I know Maduro is a very, very bad guy, he may not even be a legitimate president.
Yeah.
I'm just concerned about the historical precedent that may be set here if there's not more to this than what is being proclaimed. I don't accept the fact that this is, he's a narco terrorist any more than the president of Mexico or any more than the president of Colombia or China. 99% of the fentanyl that comes into this country is going through the China-Mexico corridor. Are we going to go arrest the president of Mexico or the president of China? I can't help but think that there's more to this than is being proclaimed. I certainly hope that there is.
I don't think there's any question. Listen, Venezuela was a beachhead of the Western Hemisphere for China, for Russia, for basically all our enemies. The destabilization that we've seen in Brazil and throughout South America, through Central America, that's all being ran by CCP through Venezuela. I mean, they are destabilizing the entire Western Hemisphere through Venezuela. Paraguay's an issue too, but Venezuela is the main.
That's good to know.
I think that to me, the Venezuela action, there's ups and downs to it, right? I mean, do I love the precedent? No, but at the same time, remember, arguably, assuming what we believe we know about the election fraud coming from Venezuela is accurate, well, remember that would indicate that they toppled our government, right? They took out Trump.
Exactly.
They took our president out. Now, Maduro, clearly didn't win the election and clearly, stole his position and is just a dictator down there. And yes, I'm justifying for sure. But, I guess at the end of the day, the thing behind this did Trump protect America's interests? And the answer is yes. And how else would he do this, right? Any other direction he would have done would have been worse, right? If he'd done nothing, they would have continued doing what they're doing. They would have continued destabilizing the Western Hemisphere. They'd have continued stealing elections. They would have continued, using oil to weaponize against the dollar. They'd have continued with their rare earth elements all going to China. They'd have continued with all these horrible things they were doing. If he'd done this, what else could he do, right? So he either had to do something about this or not. And then if he's going to do something about it, what do you do from there? So, I mean, he could have went to war, but I wouldn't have supported that at all.
Right.
This case, we took the bad guy out surgically, precisely, and not one American died, and we're not in a war, and there's no issue. We just said, hey, listen, you weren't the president anyways. You're a crook. You broke the law. You weren't the legitimate leader of the country. The legitimate leader of the country is still down there. So guess what? We're going to come down. We're going to arrest the crook who's destabilizing the Western Hemisphere. And we're going to put him in jail. And, we're going to let this country have a shot at coming back because we don't want to go to war with this country. We're not against this country or its people. We're going to let you guys come back and get your poo together so that we don't have to go to war. Because now,
20%, but Tom, 20% of the people in Venezuela are Maduro hardline loyalists, many members of the military. You have the successor of Maduro, his former vice president, who's now the president, who's saying one thing on Venezuelan state TV about how this was an atrocious action by the Trump administration, and then at the same time saying things that appear to be different when talking to Americans and to the Trump administration.
Sure.
I'm concerned that maybe there's not really a well thought out plan about how to govern the country going forward. I just don't want to end up in a situation where, we take out a government, we change a president, and yet we're not really thinking down the line about what happens now and how you govern a country of 28 or 30 million people. And the last thing we need is to end up in a quagmire. I can't help but think that President Trump has thought about what we're going to do going forward in Venezuela.
I would think he has. I really do. I give him the benefit of the doubt on that. But I mean, the question, listen, we're great at winning wars and losing peace. I mean, we can win any war, but we lose a peace every time.
Well said.
And the thing about this is I think Trump's aware of that. I mean, he saw Afghanistan. He saw what Biden did there. He inherited a lot of these messes. So I think this is a different approach. Now, here's the thing. He was very upfront. American oil companies are going to rebuild this. They're in charge, period. I think to me, now I love that. No, not really. But at the same time, I do understand it. And hey, if we're going to stick our nose into another country's business, we might as well get something out of it, right? So listen, my support for the action doesn't mean that I necessarily trust the follow-up plan. The action itself, I agree with and I understood. I'm watching to see what we do from here. Yeah. And I'm hoping that you're right and that Trump has thought this through and has a good plan for the peace. I think, and this is the funny part, because when I hear myself talking, I see people, oh, you hate Trump. No, I mean, listen, I'm defending him right now. I don't. I look at every issue as an issue because I'm not a sheep. In terms of Venezuela, I think that Trump has probably thought this through. The biggest sign to me is the fact that he said, we're going to have our oil companies down there rebuilding things and getting their stuff back, right? So if that's happening, that means that we have soldiers, intel, private security, all sorts of people down there watching what's happening in that country. There's no way, if we have that kind of a presence in that country, that we don't know what's going on. And listen, at the end of the day, I think they're going to maintain the peace through that presence and through the people there. And it wouldn't surprise me in the least if certain bad guys end up going missing, if certain bad guys end up disappeared, if certain bad guys certain bad guys that. We'll never hear about that in the press. But I mean, that's what I think is probably going to happen.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, the linchpins for me are election fraud, which I firmly believe was a part of this, and the peace and maintaining it going forward. Those are the concerns, and hopefully all of that works out well.
If you make money for the country, if you lift the people up, there'll be peace. Those 20% of hardliners, one thing that's universally true about dictators is that the hardliners are only hardliners because they're bought and paid for. Yeah. Nobody's loyal because it's my best buddy and I truly believe in the dictator, right? So that loyalty fades real quick when there's someone more powerful and when there's someone who's making money for everybody. So, Maduro's hardliners were his hardliners because they were paid to be his hardliners.
Yeah.
It's not because there was true loyalty and friendship. And so if we start building this up the right way and give people something else to make money off of and do things with, and I think that's part of what I see as the rebuilding plan is, using capitalism to rebuild, which makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tom Renz, what a pleasure. What a joy to have you as always.
Honored to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
You are most welcome, and we'll be seeing you again soon, Tom. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys very much. Hey, by the way, Louisiana, please get rid of Cassidy.
Oh my gosh, we're working on it, Tom.
I don't care what you got to do. Please.
We're working hard. We're working hard, Tom.
Whatever I can do, that guy needs to go.
Indeed.
He does. Amen. He does.
Thanks,
all
guys.
Right. Thank you. Chris, all I could think of whenever we were talking about the American oil companies going in to Venezuela is maybe this will distract them and take their resources and capabilities away from doing CCS in Louisiana. Maybe they'll be, they can't have enough money to do everything, right? They can't have enough resources to do everything. So follow the real cash.
Right. Gosh, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great? But of course, they're using our money for the CCS.
Well, that's true.
So,
Until
but
the spigot gets turned off, please, Jesus, turn the
yeah,
spigot off.
that's a great point. But um, yeah, I think Danielle, my gut feeling is that there's going to be some real electronic voting fraud that is at the bottom of this action against Maduro. And I certainly hope that that is the case because we absolutely need it. Uh, I just find it interesting that I haven't heard that much from Tulsi Gabbard recently, but it always comes back in my mind what she said about the electronic voting systems a few
Yeah.
months back, that not only are these computerized voting systems capable of fraud, they have evidence of fraud. Well, what's the genesis of all of that with Smartmatic, Sequoia, Dominion, all originated in Venezuela? And so I believe that is a big issue here.
Yeah. And our friends got some screen time from President Trump this week. I don't know if you saw, Chris, but I believe uh, it was Professor David Clement's a clip of his film "Let My People Go." This weekend was featured by President Trump on his Truth Social, where Mark Cook was explaining, like in real time, showing how he could go into a Dominion machine and physically, I mean, literally flip the votes with using the back door that was created for that very purpose. So I don't think President Trump is in any way unaware of what is going on. And I think this is the sound of Jaws. You know, the Jaws theme song is kind of pumping up now. And these
Yes.
people, he's chumming the waters, I think. And it's going to be, I think we will see justice on this issue.
Me
And,
too. I think
and I
President
believe it.
Trump is acutely aware of it. It's so funny to me, Danielle, that, um, and this is why I always go back to my belief that President Trump is sincerely motivated and truly does want to do the right thing and really fumigate this thing, hide, hair, and guts, is because the very people that we are battling against now with the election fraud, with the weaponization of the DOJ, with all of the COVID vax tyranny. I mean, in so many ways, President Trump was fighting against the very same forces who did everything within their power to keep him from ever becoming president. And it was
Yeah.
only when he assumed power through a lot of courage, a lot of hard work, and a lot of guts, and a lot of resilience, and a lot of support from the American people do they finally come around and pretend as though, to some degree, they support him and love him. But Trump is not fooled, I don't believe, by any of them.
Yeah. And I saw a friend sent me this week a mashup, I think it was over the weekend, uh, of President Trump over the years giving speeches and talking about if someone screws you, you have to hit them 10 times harder. You have to hit them 5 times harder. And he was talking about that. His continual context for that was, yeah, you want to teach them a lesson. Yes, it feels good to hit somebody back. But what it's about is letting people know that you will not be railroaded. It's the signal that it sends to the broader picture of people. And I think that's something he did beautifully, expertly with Maduro, and the way that that press conference was handled after the Maduro extraction. I think he's doing the same thing with some of these people who are enemies in his camp, right? You can't tell me that Trump has forgotten that Albert Bourla released the data about the COVID vaccine days after the primary. Just was it the primary, the after the 2020 election, remember? And Trump remembers that they held that those vaccine quote unquote results until after the 2020 election in order to to put him in a lesser position. Don't think that he's inviting him to the White House
And
and has
yeah,
forgotten that he did that. He hasn't forgotten. He is
yeah.
waiting. He is waiting, and I can't wait.
Danielle, I think he's way too smart for that. I know that there are a lot of people in the MAGA camp who believe that Trump has sold them out. And I understand why they would have that view based upon some of the public comments that he's made and based upon the inaction of the Justice Department on many of these issues that we've been talking about here. But I think President Trump has earned the benefit of the doubt. I think he knows who his friends are, and I think he absolutely knows who his enemies are. And I think he's thinking way, way ahead of the game, far ahead of anybody around him. And so I'm willing to roll with that because I believe some good things are coming in 2026. If for no other reason, because President Trump knows that if we lose the midterms because of deteriorating MAGA support, it's going to, that will be a nightmare for President Trump for the remainder of his second term. He doesn't want that. We don't want that because we have an agenda that we have to pursue. I think President Trump is going to do what's necessary to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think so too, Chris. A couple of announcements. The Warrior Circle, which is our membership program, is now open, and tomorrow is our first Warrior Wednesday. So the last 30 minutes of tomorrow's episode will be only available to Warrior Circle members on our app or the website, and the Q&A throughout the episode will be open to Warrior Circle members only. If you haven't joined yet, please do so. It's $10 a month or $100 a year. It supports us. It helps us pay the bills here. Just running the show is an expensive endeavor. So we would appreciate if you would support us there. You can join at join.freedomstate.us. There's a button on our website right there at the top, join.freedomstate.us or freedomstate.us. You can get to it there. Tomorrow, Chris and I are going to be covering, we're calling it the Louisiana Lowdown, all the stuff that's been happening that we haven't really had that much of an opportunity to talk about. We will be covering some very fun and I think important topics tomorrow, including the congressional redistricting status. We'll be covering probably Governor Jeff Landry's self-report at the end of 2025. I think that will be a pretty interesting thing for us to go over and see if we agree with his wins. You know, he's also been appointed to the special envoy to Greenland. I think we'll have some things to say about that and much more. So if you want to be part of that conversation, please do join us tomorrow. And we'll be right back here, same time, same place. But the last 30 minutes, like I said, will be exclusive. So you'll want to join us and not miss that. And then our first exclusive content for with a guest is featuring JJ Carroll. You remember he is Border Patrol. He was ex-Border Patrol. Now he's re-Border Patrol. So he will be giving us some inside scoop on how that's going on January 21st. And that one is for members only as well.
I want you to join y'all make sure that you join the Freedom Circle. It is a tremendous opportunity for us to get together as fellow patriots, support one another, talk about issues of mutual concern, and really build up morale. It is so important for us to be able to come together, nurture one another, share with one another, bounce ideas off of one another, to help us sustain each other for the fight. We need to be unified, we need to be together, and we need to be a source of mutual support. And that's sort of the way I look at the Freedom Circle, Danielle, and Warrior Wednesday, having people generally of like minds who come together and have open discussions and share with one another about really, really important issues. So I can't wait. I'm so excited about this, and we're going to try to get to 100 members by the end of January, and I believe that we can get there. So everybody listening now, the rates are very, very reasonable, and what you'll get out of this, I believe, psychologically, politically, emotionally, spiritually, is far more than what we're asking in order to participate here. So please do so, and can't wait to talk with everybody.
Yeah. And do you also want to talk about sponsoring, Chris?
Absolutely. About Blanco?
Well, please do talk about him. And also, I would love it if you would just talk about sponsorship in general.
Oh yeah,
the
for sure.
opportunity.
We're building up our sponsorship base for the State of Freedom. We're averaging about 850,000 listeners per live episode. We're the number one news podcast in Louisiana now because of our content, audience, quality of our guests. So we are becoming quite a force in Louisiana and really beyond with regard to news and politics. So let us promote your business on the State of Freedom. We would love to do so. Uh, our rates are very reasonable, and you will be supporting really a great podcast in Louisiana. In my own humble estimation, the best. But nobody will be able to promote your business, your nonprofit, or your product or your idea better than the State of Freedom, and it will redound to your benefit. So please sponsor and advertise on the State of Freedom. Speaking of which, Danielle, Blanco Brothers Construction, which is an outstanding, in my opinion, the very best roofing and construction company in the state of Louisiana. I've known Oscar Blanco for a long time. He is an American citizen, even though he is an immigrant from Honduras. He came here at the age of 15 or 16 years old and ultimately graduated from high school and began working in the roofing business. And here we are 30 years later, and he has, in my opinion, the best construction and roofing company in the state of Louisiana. Great service, great work, reasonable prices. Absolutely will not screw you over. You will be in good hands with Blanco Brothers Construction, roofing, gutters, sheet metal, and other roofing type activities. So please call Blanco Brothers Construction if you have any issue with your roof, and he will treat you well financially, and you will get no better service anywhere in Louisiana. And generally, Blanco Brothers Construction works in South and Central Louisiana, but will travel if you need it. So don't hesitate to contact Oscar Blanco, Blanco Brothers Construction. The best you can get.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. And I think, unless you have anything else, that's it for today. We'll see people back here tomorrow.
Well, I wish I could continue to talk to you some more, but I guess I won't be able to see you until tomorrow. But I look forward to it, Danielle.
All right. Me too. Thank you, Chris. God bless you.
All right. Take care.
Thanks for joining us today on the State of Freedom. Be sure and check out the show notes for this episode. You can always go there and find the calls to action and resources mentioned in the show, and you can find out more information about our advertisers there as well. If you want to learn more about us or support our work, visit freedomstate.us. To get involved with Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, visit lacag.org. We'll see you next time. God bless. Thanks for joining us today on the State of Freedom.